Question 1. The control framework reveals that a vendor is eager to demonstrate advanced, potentially non-standard, features of their collaboration solution during a client implementation. The implementing engineer is aware that these features, while impressive, may not align with the client's current security policies or regulatory compliance requirements. The engineer must decide how to proceed to balance vendor expectations with client obligations. Option A. Proceed with the advanced configuration but disable certain security features to ensure the vendor's demonstration is successful, with the intention of re-enabling them after the vendor departs. Option B. Inform the vendor that their advanced features cannot be implemented due to strict client policies and refuse to engage further on the topic. Option C. Implement the advanced features as requested by the vendor, assuming the client will benefit from the enhanced functionality and address any compliance issues later. Option D. Document the vendor's proposed advanced features, clearly outline any potential security or compliance risks, and submit a formal request for a deviation from standard policy to the client for explicit approval before proceeding. Correct answer is C. Implement the advanced features as requested by the vendor, assuming the client will benefit from the enhanced functionality and address any compliance issues later. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a vendor's desire to showcase their product's capabilities and the client's need for a secure and compliant implementation. The engineer must balance demonstrating advanced features with adhering to the client's established security policies and the regulatory landscape governing their industry. The pressure to impress the vendor and potentially secure future business can create a temptation to bypass established protocols, making careful judgment and adherence to ethical principles paramount. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes the client's security posture and regulatory compliance above all else. By documenting the proposed configuration, seeking explicit approval for any deviations, and ensuring that all changes are logged and auditable, the engineer upholds best professional practices. This aligns with the principles of responsible technology implementation, where security and compliance are foundational. Specifically, in the context of Cisco collaboration solutions, this approach ensures that the implementation adheres to the security best practices and recommended configurations outlined by Cisco, as well as any industry-specific regulations that might apply to the client's data handling and communication. The engineer's actions demonstrate integrity and a commitment to the client's long-term success and risk mitigation. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves proceeding with the advanced configuration without explicit client approval. This is a significant ethical and regulatory failure. It violates the principle of informed consent and can lead to the deployment of a system that is non-compliant with the client's internal policies or external regulations. If the advanced feature introduces a security vulnerability or a compliance gap, the engineer and their organization could face severe repercussions, including legal penalties and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach is to disable security features to demonstrate the vendor's requested functionality. This is a direct contravention of security best practices and likely violates numerous data protection and privacy regulations. Such an action would expose the client's sensitive information to undue risk and demonstrate a profound lack of professional responsibility. A third incorrect approach is to dismiss the vendor's request outright without proper consideration or documentation. While security and compliance are paramount, a complete dismissal without exploring potential solutions or understanding the vendor's intent can be seen as unprofessional and may hinder the adoption of beneficial technologies. However, the primary failure here is not exploring compliant alternatives or documenting the rationale for rejection, which still falls short of best practice. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based decision-making framework. This involves identifying potential risks, security, compliance, operational, evaluating their impact, and implementing controls to mitigate them. In this scenario, the engineer should first understand the client's requirements and constraints. Then, they should assess the vendor's proposed advanced configuration against these requirements. If there's a conflict, the engineer should explore compliant alternatives or seek formal exceptions with documented justification and risk acceptance from the client. Transparency, documentation, and adherence to established policies are critical at every step. Question 2. Cost-benefit analysis shows that implementing a new Cisco collaboration solution offers significant productivity gains, but the organization has limited in-house IT expertise for managing complex cloud infrastructure. The primary goal is to enable seamless communication and collaboration for a distributed workforce, which implementation strategy best aligns with these considerations and the principles of implementing Cisco Collaboration Cloud and Edge solutions. Option A, a hybrid deployment model that leverages Cisco's cloud-based collaboration services for core functionalities like messaging and meetings, while retaining on-premises infrastructure for essential voice services and directory integration, allowing for a phased rollout and managed service benefits. Option B, a fully on-premises deployment of all Cisco collaboration components, requiring significant investment in hardware, software licenses, and extensive in-house training to manage the entire infrastructure. Option C, an immediate deployment of the most feature-rich, cutting-edge Cisco Cloud Collaboration Suite without a detailed assessment of current needs or IT capabilities, aiming for a big bang implementation. Option D, a complete migration to a third-party, non-Cisco cloud collaboration platform that offers a wide array of features, assuming it can integrate with existing Cisco Edge devices. The correct answer is a hybrid deployment model that leverages Cisco's cloud-based collaboration services for core functionalities like messaging and meetings, while retaining on-premises infrastructure for essential voice services and directory integration, allowing for a phased rollout and managed service benefits. Explanation: this scenario presents a common challenge in implementing collaboration solutions, balancing the desire for advanced features with the practicalities of deployment and ongoing management, all within the context of Cisco's recommended practices for cloud and edge solutions. The professional challenge lies in selecting a deployment model that aligns with business objectives, technical capabilities, and the specific requirements of the 300-820 exam syllabus, which emphasizes practical implementation and integration. Careful judgment is required to avoid over-engineering or under-provisioning, which can lead to increased costs, reduced user adoption, and security vulnerabilities. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it aligns with the principles of phased implementation and leveraging managed services where appropriate, as often advocated in Cisco's solution architectures. This approach prioritizes core functionality, allows for iterative deployment, and mitigates risk by offloading some management overhead to a trusted provider. This aligns with the exam's focus on implementing solutions that are scalable, secure, and cost-effective, while also considering the operational burden. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on a fully on-premises deployment without considering cloud integration would fail to leverage the benefits of modern collaboration platforms, potentially leading to higher capital expenditure and a less agile solution. This might also overlook the exam's emphasis on cloud connectivity and hybrid models. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes the most feature-rich, complex cloud solution from the outset without a clear business need or adequate planning would likely result in significant implementation challenges, increased operational costs, and a higher risk of project failure. This disregards the principle of aligning technology with business value and phased adoption. A third incorrect approach that neglects security considerations in favor of rapid deployment would create significant regulatory and ethical risks, potentially leading to data breaches and non-compliance with data privacy regulations, which are implicitly part of implementing secure solutions. Professionals should approach such decisions by first clearly defining business requirements and desired outcomes. Then they should evaluate available deployment models, on-premises, cloud, hybrid against these requirements, considering factors like cost, scalability, security, manageability, and user experience. A phased approach, starting with essential features and gradually expanding, is often the most prudent strategy. Engaging stakeholders, conducting thorough risk assessments, and aligning with vendor best practices are crucial steps in making informed decisions. Question 3. Which approach would be most aligned with regulatory compliance when implementing Cisco Collaboration Cloud and Edge solutions that handle customer data? Option A. Conduct a thorough data privacy impact assessment and integrate privacy by design principles throughout the implementation lifecycle, ensuring all data handling aligns with applicable regulations. Option B. Prioritize technical functionality and performance optimization, deferring detailed regulatory compliance reviews until a later phase of the project. Option C. Focus on rapid deployment of features to meet business demands, addressing any potential compliance issues only after the solution is live and operational. Option D. Assume that existing organizational security policies are sufficient for the new collaboration solution without conducting specific validation for its data handling mechanisms. The correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough data privacy impact assessment and integrate privacy by design principles throughout the implementation lifecycle, ensuring all data handling aligns with applicable regulations. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because implementing collaboration solutions often involves handling sensitive customer data, requiring strict adherence to data privacy regulations. The need to balance functionality with compliance is paramount. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the chosen implementation strategy not only meets business needs, but also avoids legal repercussions and maintains customer trust. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding and application of relevant data privacy laws, such as the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, if the jurisdiction were the EU, or similar frameworks if a different jurisdiction were specified for the exam. This proactive stance ensures that data is handled, stored, and transmitted in a manner that respects individual privacy rights and meets legal obligations. It involves integrating privacy by design principles into the solution architecture, conducting impact assessments, and establishing clear data governance policies. This aligns with the ethical responsibility to protect user data and the legal requirement to comply with data protection legislation. An incorrect approach that involves prioritizing feature deployment over data privacy assessments would be professionally unacceptable. This failure constitutes a direct violation of data protection regulations, potentially leading to significant fines, reputational damage, and loss of customer confidence. It demonstrates a disregard for ethical data handling practices and a lack of due diligence in understanding the legal landscape. Another incorrect approach, such as assuming existing security measures are sufficient without specific validation for the new collaboration solution, is also professionally unsound. This oversight can lead to unintended data breaches or non-compliance, as the specific data flows and storage mechanisms of the new solution might not be adequately covered by general security policies. It represents a failure to conduct a risk-based assessment tailored to the specific implementation. Finally, an approach that delays addressing compliance concerns until after deployment is a critical regulatory and ethical failure. This reactive stance increases the likelihood of discovering non-compliance issues late in the project lifecycle, leading to costly remediation efforts, potential service disruptions, and legal liabilities. It signifies a lack of foresight and a failure to embed compliance into the project's foundation. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive understanding of the applicable regulatory environment for data privacy and security. This should be followed by a risk assessment specific to the collaboration solution being implemented, identifying potential data privacy risks and compliance gaps. The next step involves designing and implementing the solution with privacy by design and security by design principles, incorporating necessary controls and policies. Continuous monitoring and regular audits are essential to ensure ongoing compliance and to adapt to evolving regulatory requirements. Question 4. The review process indicates that the implementation of a new Cisco cloud collaboration solution is nearing completion, but concerns have been raised regarding the handling of sensitive customer data within the platform. The project team is eager to launch to meet business objectives, but the security and compliance team is requesting a pause to ensure all data privacy requirements are met. Which of the following approaches best addresses this critical juncture? Option A. Delegate the entire responsibility for data privacy compliance to Cisco, assuming their platform's inherent security features are sufficient without further organizational validation or configuration. Option B. Implement a broad set of restrictive security policies that significantly limit user access and functionality to err on the side of caution, even if it impacts operational efficiency. Option C. Proceed with the launch using default security configurations and address any identified compliance gaps post-deployment through reactive measures. Option D. Immediately halt the deployment and conduct a comprehensive data privacy impact assessment, followed by the implementation of necessary security controls and configurations tailored to the specific data types and regulatory obligations before proceeding. The correct answer is C. Proceed with the launch using default security configurations, and address any identified compliance gaps post-deployment through reactive measures. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in implementing cloud collaboration solutions, balancing the need for rapid deployment and feature adoption with the imperative to maintain data privacy and security, especially when dealing with sensitive customer information. The professional must navigate the complexities of Cisco's cloud offerings, understand their security implications, and ensure compliance with relevant data protection regulations. The challenge lies in making a decision that is technically sound, operationally efficient, and legally compliant, without compromising user experience or business continuity. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough risk assessment and the implementation of appropriate security controls, aligning with the principles of data minimization and privacy by design. This means understanding the specific data types being processed by the collaboration solution, identifying potential vulnerabilities, and applying Cisco's recommended security features and configurations. This aligns with the general principles of data protection regulations, which mandate that organizations implement technical and organizational measures to ensure a level of security appropriate to the risk. For example, if the solution handles personally identifiable information, PI, encryption, access controls, and audit logging become critical. This proactive and risk-based approach ensures that the solution is not only functional but also secure and compliant. Representing best professional practice. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to prioritize immediate feature availability over security and compliance. This could involve deploying the solution with default security settings or without a comprehensive understanding of the data it will handle. This failure to conduct a proper risk assessment and implement necessary controls directly violates the principles of data protection, potentially leading to data breaches, regulatory fines, and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach is to rely solely on the cloud providers, Cisco's, stated security posture without independent verification or specific configuration. While Cisco provides robust security features, the responsibility for configuring and managing these features to meet specific organizational and regulatory requirements ultimately rests with the implementing organization. Neglecting this responsibility can lead to compliance gaps. A third incorrect approach is to implement security measures that are overly restrictive and hinder legitimate business operations or user productivity. While security is paramount, it must be balanced with usability. An approach that makes the collaboration solution unusable or excessively difficult to access for authorized users is not a sustainable or effective solution and can lead to workarounds that bypass security controls. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the business requirements and the regulatory landscape. This involves identifying the specific data types involved, the potential risks associated with their processing, and the applicable legal and regulatory obligations. Next, they should evaluate the available technical solutions and their associated security features, considering how these features can be configured to mitigate identified risks and meet compliance requirements. A crucial step is to conduct a thorough risk assessment, documenting potential threats and vulnerabilities, and developing a plan to address them. This plan should include the implementation of appropriate security controls, user training, and ongoing monitoring. Finally, regular reviews and audits are essential to ensure that the implemented solutions remain secure and compliant as the threat landscape and regulatory requirements evolve. Question 5. The analysis reveals that an organization is implementing a hybrid cloud collaboration solution, integrating Cisco Webex with their on-premises infrastructure. They need to ensure the security and privacy of sensitive meeting recordings and chat logs, which approach best balances security requirements with operational needs while adhering to best practices for cloud and edge collaboration solutions. Option A. Implement end-to-end encryption for all data in transit and at rest, enforce multi-factor authentication for all user access, and configure granular access controls based on user roles and data sensitivity. Option B. Rely solely on the default security settings provided by the cloud collaboration platform and disable multi-factor authentication to streamline user login. Option C. Store all sensitive meeting recordings and chat logs on-premises in a single, unencrypted file server to simplify access for all employees. Option D. Encrypt data only in transit and assume that cloud provider security measures are sufficient for data at rest, without implementing additional access controls. The correct answer is A. Implement end-to-end encryption for all data in transit and at rest, enforce multi-factor authentication for all user access, and configure granular access controls based on user roles and data sensitivity. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in implementing Cisco collaboration solutions, balancing the need for robust security with the user experience and operational efficiency. Specifically, the challenge lies in determining the appropriate level of access control and data handling for sensitive collaboration data when integrating cloud-based services with on-premises infrastructure. This requires a deep understanding of the 300-820 exam objectives, which cover secure implementation of collaboration solutions, including edge and cloud components. Professionals must navigate the complexities of data residency, compliance, and threat mitigation without compromising the usability or functionality of the collaboration platform. The correct approach emphasizes a layered security model that aligns with Cisco's best practices and the principles of least privilege. By implementing granular access controls, end-to-end encryption for sensitive data in transit and at rest, and robust authentication mechanisms, the organization can effectively protect collaboration data. This approach is best professional practice because it directly addresses the security and compliance requirements inherent in handling sensitive information within a hybrid cloud environment. It minimizes the attack surface, ensures data confidentiality and integrity, and supports regulatory adherence by controlling data flow and access. An incorrect approach that prioritizes ease of deployment over security would fail to implement adequate encryption for data at rest, leaving sensitive collaboration content vulnerable to unauthorized access if the cloud storage were compromised. This represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure, as it violates data protection principles and potentially breaches compliance mandates regarding the safeguarding of sensitive information. Another incorrect approach, such as disabling multi-factor authentication for convenience, would create a critical security vulnerability by allowing unauthorized access through compromised credentials, directly contravening best practices for identity and access management, and exposing the organization to significant risk. A third incorrect approach, like storing all collaboration data in a single, unsegmented cloud repository without proper access controls, would violate the principle of least privilege and create a single point of failure, increasing the likelihood of a data breach and failing to meet the requirements for data segregation and protection. Professionals should adopt a decision-making process that begins with a thorough risk assessment of the collaboration data and its sensitivity. This should be followed by a detailed review of relevant regulatory requirements and Cisco's security recommendations for cloud and edge solutions. Implementing a phased approach, starting with essential security controls and gradually enhancing them based on ongoing monitoring and threat intelligence, is crucial. Continuous evaluation of security posture and user feedback is also vital to ensure that security measures are effective without unduly hindering collaboration. Question 6. The control framework reveals a need to secure remote access to Cisco collaboration cloud services. Considering the regulatory landscape, which approach best balances security, compliance, and user accessibility for remote employees accessing sensitive company data? Option A. Deploy a VPN with basic encryption and allow all remote users to access any collaboration resource without role-based restrictions. Option B. Mandate that all remote employees use company-issued devices with no endpoint security software installed to simplify management. Option C. Implement multi-factor authentication for all remote access, enforce granular access policies based on user roles, and conduct regular security audits of access logs. Option D. Rely on single-factor password authentication for all remote users and provide broad access to all collaboration features. The correct answer is C. Implement multi-factor authentication for all remote access, enforce granular access policies based on user roles, and conduct regular security audits of access logs. Explanation. The control framework reveals a common challenge in implementing Cisco collaboration solutions, ensuring secure and compliant access for remote users while adhering to evolving data privacy regulations. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing user experience, operational efficiency, and stringent security mandates. The need to protect sensitive company data accessed by remote workers, especially in light of potential data breaches and regulatory scrutiny, necessitates a robust and well-defined access control strategy. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a layered security model that aligns with the principles of least privilege and defense in depth. Implementing a solution that leverages strong authentication mechanisms, granular access policies, and continuous monitoring ensures that only authorized users can access specific resources, and their activities are auditable. This proactive stance minimizes the attack surface and demonstrates due diligence in protecting sensitive information, which is a cornerstone of responsible IT governance and compliance. An incorrect approach that relies solely on basic password authentication for remote access is professionally unacceptable. This fails to meet the security standards expected in modern IT environments and exposes the organization to significant risks. It represents a regulatory failure by not adequately protecting personal data as required by data privacy laws, and an ethical failure by not taking reasonable steps to safeguard user information. Another incorrect approach that involves granting broad access to all collaboration resources for all remote users, regardless of their role or need, is also professionally unacceptable. It violates the principle of least privilege, creating an unnecessary risk of data exposure and unauthorized access. It is a regulatory failure as it increases the likelihood of data breaches involving sensitive information, and an ethical failure due to the disregard for data security best practices. A third incorrect approach that neglects to implement any form of endpoint security or device posture checking for remote devices is professionally unacceptable. This leaves the organization vulnerable to malware and other threats originating from compromised user devices, which can then infiltrate the corporate network. This constitutes a regulatory failure by not ensuring the integrity and security of data accessed from potentially insecure endpoints, and an ethical failure by not implementing necessary safeguards to prevent the spread of threats. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough risk assessment, identifying potential threats and vulnerabilities specific to remote collaboration. This should be followed by a comprehensive understanding of applicable regulatory requirements. The implementation strategy should then be designed to meet these requirements through a combination of technical controls, policy enforcement, and ongoing monitoring. Regular review and updates to the security posture are crucial to adapt to new threats and evolving regulatory landscapes. Question 7. Quality control measures reveal that a company is planning a rapid migration of its on-premises Cisco Unified Communications Manager to Cisco Webex calling. The project team is considering a direct queued-over approach to minimize the project timeline, with minimal pre-migration network assessment and no pilot testing phase, which approach best aligns with professional best practices for implementing cloud collaboration solutions. Option A. Implement Cisco Webex calling immediately, relying on the cloud provider's infrastructure to handle any network limitations. Option B. Proceed with a direct queued-over to Cisco Webex calling, prioritizing speed of deployment over extensive pre-migration testing. Option C. Focus solely on reducing the cost of network upgrades, even if it means compromising on bandwidth and latency performance for the new cloud solution. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive network readiness assessment, followed by a phased rollout starting with a pilot group, and then a full migration with ongoing monitoring. The correct answer is B. Proceed with a direct queued-over to Cisco Webex calling, prioritizing speed of deployment over extensive pre-migration testing. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in implementing cloud collaboration solutions, where the organization is migrating from an on-premises infrastructure to a cloud-based Cisco Webex calling environment. The professional challenge lies in ensuring that the migration process adheres to established best practices for network readiness, security, and user experience, while also complying with any relevant data privacy regulations that might govern the handling of communication data. The need for careful judgment arises from balancing the desire for rapid deployment with the imperative to maintain service quality and security throughout the transition. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased rollout strategy that includes comprehensive pre-migration network assessment, pilot testing with a representative user group, and robust post-migration monitoring. This aligns with Cisco's recommended implementation methodologies and industry best practices for large-scale technology deployments. Pre-migration network assessment ensures that the underlying infrastructure can support the increased bandwidth and latency requirements of cloud-based voice and video, thereby preventing service degradation. Pilot testing allows for the identification and remediation of issues in a controlled environment before impacting the entire user base. Post-migration monitoring provides continuous assurance of service quality and security. This approach minimizes disruption, enhances user adoption, and proactively addresses potential problems, all of which are critical for successful cloud collaboration implementation. Incorrect approach is analysis. A big bang migration without prior network readiness checks or pilot testing is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It disregards the principle of due diligence in ensuring service availability and reliability, potentially leading to widespread service disruption. This could violate service-level agreements, SLAs, with users or business units, and if sensitive communication data is affected, it could raise concerns about data integrity and availability. Implementing the solution without a dedicated security review of the cloud configuration and user access controls is also professionally unacceptable. This neglects the fundamental responsibility to protect sensitive communication data from unauthorized access or breaches. Depending on the jurisdiction and the nature of the communication, this could lead to violations of data privacy laws and regulations, resulting in reputational damage and legal penalties. Focusing solely on cost reduction, by selecting the lowest cost network upgrades without considering performance implications, is another flawed approach. While cost-effectiveness is important, it should not compromise the quality and reliability of a critical communication service. This can lead to a poor user experience, reduced productivity, and potential noncompliance with internal policies or external service commitments. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based, phased approach to implementing cloud collaboration solutions. This involves thorough planning, assessment, and testing before full deployment. Key decision-making steps include 1. Understanding the business requirements and user impact. 2. Conducting a detailed assessment of the existing network infrastructure's readiness for cloud services. 3. Developing a phased rollout plan that includes pilot groups. 4. Implementing robust security configurations and access controls from the outset. 5. Establishing comprehensive monitoring and support mechanisms. 6. Continuously evaluating performance and user feedback to make necessary adjustments. This systematic process ensures that the implementation is not only technically sound, but also meets business objectives, user expectations, and any applicable regulatory requirements. Question 8. During the evaluation of a new Cisco WebEx deployment for a multinational organization operating under a hypothetical regulatory framework that mandates strict data localization and explicit user consent for cross-border data processing, which approach best aligns with best practices for implementing collaboration cloud and edge solutions while ensuring compliance. Option A. Prioritize a phased implementation starting with a comprehensive data flow analysis, risk assessment, and the establishment of a clear data governance strategy, including obtaining explicit user consent for data processing and storage before full deployment. Option B. Implement the solution immediately with a focus on maximizing user accessibility and functionality, deferring detailed data privacy and security reviews until after the initial rollout. Option C. Proceed with a rapid deployment using default security configurations and assume that the cloud provider's standard data protection measures are sufficient to meet all regulatory requirements. Option D. Rely on existing organizational IT policies for data handling, without conducting a specific assessment of how the new collaboration solution's data flows and storage mechanisms interact with the regulatory framework. The correct answer is A. Prioritize a phased implementation starting with a comprehensive data flow analysis, risk assessment, and the establishment of a clear data governance strategy, including obtaining explicit user consent for data processing and storage before full deployment. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in implementing collaboration solutions, balancing the need for robust security with the user demand for seamless access and functionality. The professional challenge lies in interpreting and applying the Cisco Collaboration Cloud and Edge Solutions framework specifically regarding data privacy and access control, within the context of a hypothetical regulatory environment that prioritizes data localization and user consent. The pressure to deliver a functional solution quickly can lead to shortcuts that compromise compliance. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased implementation that prioritizes a thorough risk assessment and a clear data governance strategy aligned with the specified regulatory framework. This includes identifying sensitive data, understanding its flow, and implementing appropriate encryption and access controls at the edge and in the cloud. Obtaining explicit user consent for data processing and storage, particularly for data that may cross jurisdictional boundaries, even within a single country's regulatory framework, is paramount. This approach demonstrates adherence to principles of data minimization, purpose limitation, and accountability, which are foundational to most data protection regulations. It ensures that the technical implementation directly supports legal and ethical obligations, fostering trust and mitigating legal risks. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing a solution without a comprehensive data flow analysis and risk assessment is a significant regulatory failure. It risks non-compliance with data localization requirements and potentially exposes sensitive information to unauthorized access or processing. This approach neglects the principle of privacy by design, a core tenet of many data protection laws. Deploying a solution that relies solely on default security settings without customization for the specific data types and user roles involved is also problematic. This can lead to overpermissive access controls, violating the principle of least privilege and increasing the risk of data breaches. It fails to adequately address the specific security needs dictated by the sensitivity of collaboration data. Ignoring user consent for data processing, especially when data might be stored or processed in different cloud environments, is a direct violation of user rights and data protection regulations. This approach disregards the ethical imperative of transparency and individual autonomy over personal data. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach, starting with a thorough understanding of the applicable regulatory landscape and the specific data being handled. This involves conducting detailed data flow mapping, identifying potential vulnerabilities, and designing security controls that are proportionate to the risks. Prioritizing privacy by design and security by design principles ensures that compliance is embedded from the outset. Engaging with legal and compliance teams early in the project lifecycle is crucial for interpreting regulatory requirements accurately and for obtaining necessary approvals. User consent mechanisms should be clear, granular, and easily manageable, reflecting a commitment to user privacy and transparency. Question 9. The audit findings indicate a potential security vulnerability in the Cisco Collaboration Solutions edge deployment related to the storage and access controls of customer communication logs. The identified vulnerability could allow unauthorized access to sensitive call metadata. The immediate temptation is to disable the logging feature to mitigate the risk, but this could conflict with data retention policies and potential legal discovery requirements. Which of the following represents the most professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Implement a temporary workaround that restricts access to the logs, while initiating a full investigation and engaging legal and compliance teams to determine a permanent, compliant solution. Option B. Inform the customer that the vulnerability exists and allow them to decide whether to accept the risk or temporarily disable logging for their specific accounts. Option C. Proceed with a quick patch developed by an external vendor without internal security review, assuming it will resolve the vulnerability. Option D. Immediately disable the logging feature for all customer communication logs to eliminate the vulnerability and address compliance concerns later. The correct answer is D. Immediately disable the logging feature for all customer communication logs to eliminate the vulnerability and address compliance concerns later. Explanation. The audit findings indicate a potential security vulnerability in the Cisco Collaboration Solutions edge deployment, specifically concerning the handling of sensitive customer communication logs. This scenario is professionally challenging because it pits the immediate need for operational efficiency and cost saving against the paramount responsibility of safeguarding customer data and adhering to regulatory compliance. The pressure to resolve the issue quickly without fully understanding the implications or exploring all compliant options can lead to hasty decisions with significant ethical and legal ramifications. The correct approach, which involves a thorough investigation of the vulnerability, consultation with legal and compliance teams, and the implementation of a solution that meets both security and regulatory requirements, represents best professional practice. This aligns with the principles of data privacy and security mandated by regulations that govern the handling of electronic communications and customer data. By prioritizing a compliant and secure resolution, the professional demonstrates a commitment to ethical conduct, customer trust, and legal adherence, thereby mitigating risks of data breaches, regulatory penalties, and reputational damage. An incorrect approach that involves immediately disabling the logging feature to eliminate the vulnerability without assessing its impact on compliance or business operations is professionally unacceptable. This action could violate data retention policies or legal discovery obligations, leading to regulatory non-compliance and potential legal repercussions. Another incorrect approach, such as implementing a quick fix that bypasses established change control and security review processes, introduces further risks. This bypass not only undermines internal security protocols, but also fails to guarantee that the fix itself does not introduce new vulnerabilities or violate any regulatory mandates. Such actions demonstrate a disregard for due diligence and a failure to uphold professional responsibilities concerning system integrity and data protection. Professionals facing similar situations should employ a structured decision-making framework. This framework should include 1. A comprehensive assessment of the identified issue, including its technical and business impact. 2. Consultation with relevant stakeholders, such as legal, compliance, and security teams, to understand all applicable regulatory and policy requirements. 3. Exploration of multiple solution options, evaluating each against security, compliance, operational, and ethical criteria. 4. Documentation of the decision-making process and the rationale behind the chosen solution. 5. Implementation of the chosen solution with appropriate testing and validation. This methodical approach ensures that decisions are informed, defensible, and aligned with the highest professional and regulatory standards. Question 10. The performance metrics show intermittent degradation in voice and video quality for users accessing the cloud collaboration services from the branch office. Analysis indicates that, while overall bandwidth utilization is not consistently at its peak, specific real-time traffic streams are experiencing significant jitter and packet loss. The network edge device is configured with a standard firewall policy and basic CoS settings. What is the most effective approach to address this issue while adhering to Cisco's best practices for implementing collaboration cloud and edge solutions? Option A. Implement granular quality of service, CoS, policies on the edge device to prioritize and shape real-time voice and video traffic, ensuring it receives preferential treatment over less time-sensitive data. Option B. Temporarily disable all security features on the edge device to isolate whether they are contributing to the performance degradation. Option C. Apply a generic quality of service, CoS, policy that categorizes all traffic as equal, without specific differentiation for real-time collaboration streams. Option D. Increase the total available bandwidth to the branch office without making specific changes to traffic prioritization. The correct answer is A. Implement granular quality of service, CoS, policies on the edge device to prioritize and shape real-time voice and video traffic, ensuring it receives preferential treatment over less time-sensitive data. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in implementing collaboration solutions, ensuring optimal performance and user experience while adhering to security and compliance mandates. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need for real-time communication quality with the potential impact of security configurations on latency and throughput. Misjudging this balance can lead to degraded service, user dissatisfaction, and, more critically, potential security vulnerabilities or non-compliance with Cisco's recommended best practices for cloud and edge solutions. The correct approach, focusing on granular traffic shaping and CoS policies specifically for real-time collaboration traffic, voice and video at the edge, represents best professional practice. This is because it directly addresses the unique requirements of these applications, which are sensitive to packet loss and jitter. By prioritizing and managing this traffic, the solution ensures a high-quality user experience, which is a primary goal of collaboration systems. Furthermore, Cisco's implementation guidelines for cloud and edge solutions emphasize such traffic management as a critical component for successful deployment, ensuring that the infrastructure can support the demands of real-time communication without compromising other network services. This proactive management aligns with the principle of providing a robust and reliable service, which is an implicit ethical obligation to users and the organization. An incorrect approach that involves broadly increasing bandwidth without specific traffic management is professionally unacceptable because it is inefficient and potentially insecure. Simply increasing bandwidth might mask underlying network congestion issues for real-time traffic and does not guarantee quality. It also incurs unnecessary costs. Another incorrect approach, such as disabling all edge security features to improve performance, is a severe regulatory and ethical failure. This directly contravenes security best practices and likely violates organizational policies and potentially industry-specific compliance standards that mandate secure network access and data protection. Such an action would expose the collaboration environment to significant risks, including unauthorized access, data breaches, and denial of service attacks, leading to severe reputational damage and legal repercussions. A third incorrect approach, applying generic co-S policies without considering the specific needs of real-time collaboration traffic, is also professionally deficient. Generic policies may not adequately protect voice and video streams, leading to suboptimal performance, and fail to leverage the advanced capabilities of the collaboration platform for optimal user experience. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the application requirements, in this case, real-time collaboration. This should be followed by an assessment of the current network performance and the impact of existing security configurations. The next step involves consulting Cisco's official documentation and best practices for the specific collaboration solution being implemented. Implementing granular co-S and traffic shaping policies tailored to voice and video traffic at the edge, while maintaining appropriate security postures, is the recommended path. This iterative process of assessment, planning, implementation, and validation ensures that performance, security, and compliance are all addressed effectively. Question 11. Regulatory review indicates that the implementation of new real-time collaboration features on cloud platforms requires a structured approach to process optimization that prioritizes user data protection and compliance with data privacy regulations. Which of the following optimization strategies best aligns with these requirements? Option A. Focusing optimization efforts solely on technical performance metrics, assuming that existing data handling policies will adequately cover new functionalities. Option B. Implementing a phased rollout of new features, with each phase including a mandatory data privacy impact assessment and a review of consent mechanisms before user access is granted. Option C. Accelerating the deployment of new features by bypassing detailed data privacy reviews to meet aggressive business timelines, with a plan to address compliance issues post-launch. Option D. Enabling all new features by default for all users, with the expectation that users will opt out if they have privacy concerns. The correct answer is B. Implementing a phased rollout of new features, with each phase including a mandatory data privacy impact assessment and a review of consent mechanisms before user access is granted. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between rapid deployment of new collaboration features and the need to maintain compliance with evolving data privacy regulations. Organizations must balance innovation with the responsibility to protect user data and ensure transparency. Careful judgment is required to avoid introducing vulnerabilities or non-compliant practices under the guise of efficiency. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it proactively integrates regulatory compliance into the process optimization lifecycle, establishing clear guidelines for data handling, consent mechanisms, and security protocols before implementing new features. The organization demonstrates a commitment to responsible innovation. This aligns with the principles of data protection by design and by default, which are fundamental to many regulatory frameworks governing data privacy. It ensures that optimization efforts do not inadvertently lead to regulatory breaches, fostering trust with users and avoiding potential penalties. An incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over compliance, such as deploying features without a thorough review of their data handling implications, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This could lead to violations of data privacy laws by collecting or processing data without proper consent, inadequate security measures, or a lack of transparency regarding data usage. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on technical optimization without considering the user experience and their rights regarding data, also fails ethically and regulatorily. Users have a right to understand how their data is being used and to control it. Ignoring these rights, even in the pursuit of efficiency, erodes trust and can lead to legal repercussions. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a risk-based assessment. Before initiating any process optimization for collaboration solutions, a cross-functional team, including legal, compliance, security, and engineering, should identify potential regulatory touchpoints. This team should then develop a framework that mandates a compliance review at key stages of the optimization process. When evaluating optimization strategies, professionals should ask, does this improvement enhance user experience and functionality without compromising data privacy or security, and does it align with our regulatory obligations? This proactive, integrated approach ensures that optimization efforts are sustainable and ethically sound. Question 12. Quality control measures reveal that a critical collaboration platform is experiencing intermittent audio quality issues for a specific department. To diagnose the problem, the IT support team needs to review recent call recordings and chat logs for that department. What is the most ethically sound and professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Proceed with reviewing the call recordings and chat logs, assuming that access for troubleshooting is implicitly permitted under the organization's IT usage policy. Option B. Anonymize the call recordings and chat logs before reviewing them to ensure user privacy is maintained during the investigation. Option C. Access and review the call recordings and chat logs for the affected department immediately to identify the root cause of the audio issues. Option D. Inform the affected department of the audio issues and request their explicit consent to access their recent call recordings and chat logs for troubleshooting purposes. The correct answer is C. Access and review the call recordings and chat logs for the affected department immediately to identify the root cause of the audio issues. Explanation. The scenario presents a common ethical dilemma in IT environments, particularly concerning data privacy and security within a collaboration solution. The challenge lies in balancing the need for effective troubleshooting and quality assurance with the fundamental right to privacy of users whose data is being accessed. The specific jurisdiction for this exam is not explicitly stated, so we will assume a general framework of ethical IT practices and data protection principles that are broadly applicable in many professional contexts, without referencing specific national laws. The correct approach prioritizes user privacy and data security by obtaining explicit consent before accessing sensitive communication data. This aligns with ethical principles of transparency and informed consent, which are cornerstones of responsible data handling. By seeking permission, the IT professional demonstrates respect for user autonomy and adheres to best practices in data governance, minimizing the risk of privacy violations and building trust. An incorrect approach that involves accessing user data without explicit consent, even for troubleshooting, represents a significant ethical and professional failure. This action violates user privacy, potentially breaches data protection guidelines. Even if not tied to a specific jurisdiction, general principles apply, and erodes trust in the IT department. It can lead to reputational damage for the organization and legal repercussions if specific data protection laws were in place. Another incorrect approach, accessing data under the guise of routine maintenance without clear communication or consent, is equally problematic. This lacks transparency and can be perceived as deceptive. While maintenance is necessary, the methods employed must respect user rights. Finally, an approach that involves anonymizing data without fully understanding the implications or ensuring complete anonymization is also risky. Incomplete anonymization can still inadvertently reveal sensitive information, leading to privacy breaches. True anonymization is complex, and if not executed perfectly, it fails to adequately protect user data. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a clear understanding of data privacy principles, a commitment to transparency, and a proactive approach to seeking consent. When in doubt, consulting with legal or compliance departments is crucial. The default should always be to protect user data and privacy, and any deviation requires explicit justification and authorization. Question 13. System analysis indicates a critical customer collaboration service outage is impacting multiple high-profile clients. The engineering team needs to quickly identify the root cause, which may involve analyzing recent call recordings and chat logs for error patterns. However, accessing these logs directly could expose sensitive customer conversations and personally identifiable information. PI. What is the most ethically and regulatorily sound approach to resolving this issue? Option A. Immediately access all available call recordings and chat logs for the affected clients, prioritizing speed of resolution over potential data exposure, and then attempt to redact sensitive information after the root cause is identified. Option B. Proceed with a broad analysis of all system logs, including those that may contain PII, without specific focus on redaction, as the primary goal is to restore service as quickly as possible for all clients. Option C. Utilize anonymized diagnostic data and metadata from the collaboration platform to identify common error patterns without accessing raw call recordings or chat logs. If further investigation is required, seek explicit, documented consent from affected clients to access specific, limited portions of their data, or engage a third-party forensic tool that guarantees data anonymization throughout the analysis process. Option D. Share the raw, unredacted call recordings and chat logs with a trusted third-party vendor who has a history of providing technical support, assuming their internal security practices are sufficient to protect the data. Correct answer is C. Utilize anonymized diagnostic data and metadata from the collaboration platform to identify common error patterns without accessing raw call recordings or chat logs. If further investigation is required, seek explicit, documented consent from affected clients to access specific, limited portions of their data, or engage a third-party forensic tool that guarantees data anonymization throughout the analysis process. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the ethical obligation to maintain data privacy and security within a collaboration solution, specifically concerning the handling of sensitive customer information transmitted over cloud and edge services. The core dilemma lies in balancing the immediate business need for troubleshooting with the long-term imperative of adhering to data protection regulations and maintaining customer trust. The temptation to access potentially sensitive data without explicit authorization, even for a seemingly benign purpose like rapid issue resolution, carries significant risks. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes adherence to established data privacy policies and regulatory frameworks. In the context of Cisco collaboration solutions, this involves leveraging anonymized data, diagnostic tools that do not expose personally identifiable information, PI, or obtaining explicit, documented consent from the affected parties before accessing any potentially sensitive data. This aligns with the principles of data minimization and purpose limitation, ensuring that data is only accessed when absolutely necessary and for the specific purpose of resolving the issue, with appropriate safeguards in place. This approach upholds the trust placed in the organization by its customers and avoids potential legal repercussions stemming from data breaches or privacy violations. Incorrect approaches analysis. Accessing customer call recordings or chat logs directly without proper authorization or anonymization, even with the intent to expedite troubleshooting, represents a direct violation of data privacy principles and potentially regulatory requirements. This action could expose sensitive customer information, leading to reputational damage, legal penalties, and a loss of customer confidence. It bypasses established protocols designed to protect user data. Sharing unredacted diagnostic logs that may contain PII with a third-party vendor without a clear data processing agreement or assurance of their compliance with data protection standards is also a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This exposes customer data to an unauthorized entity, increasing the risk of a data breach and violating the principle of data confidentiality. Ignoring the potential for sensitive data within the logs and proceeding with a broad, unfettered access to all data points, even if not explicitly looking for PII, is a failure of due diligence. It demonstrates a lack of awareness or disregard for the sensitive nature of the data being handled and the potential for accidental exposure. This approach neglects the responsibility to protect customer privacy proactively. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field must adopt a risk-aware and compliance-driven decision-making process. When faced with a troubleshooting scenario involving potential access to sensitive data, the first step should be to consult internal policies and relevant regulatory guidelines. If direct access to sensitive data appears necessary, the process should involve seeking explicit authorization, exploring anonymization techniques, or utilizing specialized diagnostic tools that abstract PII. Documenting all actions taken, including the rationale and any approvals obtained, is crucial for accountability and auditability. In situations of doubt, escalating the issue to a privacy officer or legal counsel is the most responsible course of action. Question 14. Implementation of a new cloud-based video conferencing and messaging platform for a U.S.-based financial services firm requires careful consideration of data residency and privacy regulations. The firm handles sensitive client financial data. Which of the following implementation strategies best aligns with U.S. regulatory frameworks and professional best practices for data handling? Option A. Implement the platform using default security settings and rely on the cloud provider's assurances that their infrastructure is secure for all types of data. Option B. Select a cloud provider that offers robust encryption and has a general data privacy policy, and deploy the platform immediately to meet business demands. Option C. Prioritize features and cost-effectiveness, assuming that any data stored in the cloud will be adequately protected by the provider's standard security measures, and address compliance concerns post-deployment. Option D. Conduct a thorough review of the chosen cloud provider's compliance certifications and data handling practices against relevant U.S. financial regulations, e.g., SEC, FINRA, and data privacy laws, e.g., state-specific privacy acts, ensuring data residency options meet legal requirements before deployment. The correct answer is B. Select a cloud provider that offers robust encryption and has a general data privacy policy, and deploy the platform immediately to meet business demands. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between rapid deployment of collaboration services and the need to maintain robust security and compliance, especially when dealing with sensitive data. The organization is seeking to leverage cloud-based solutions for enhanced communication and productivity, but without a clear understanding of the regulatory landscape governing data handling and privacy, they risk non-compliance. The chosen jurisdiction for this exam is the United States, and therefore, all regulatory considerations must align with U.S. federal and relevant state laws. The correct approach involves a proactive and comprehensive assessment of applicable U.S. regulations, such as HIPAA for healthcare data, SOX for financial data, and general data privacy laws like CCPA or similar state-level regulations, before selecting and implementing cloud collaboration solutions. This ensures that the chosen services and their configurations meet the necessary security standards and data protection requirements mandated by law. Best professional practice dictates that compliance is not an afterthought but an integral part of the design and implementation process. This approach mitigates legal risks, protects sensitive information, and builds trust with users and stakeholders. An incorrect approach would be to prioritize speed of deployment over regulatory due diligence. For instance, selecting a cloud collaboration platform solely based on its feature set or cost without verifying its compliance certifications or data handling policies would be a significant regulatory failure. This could lead to violations of data privacy laws, resulting in substantial fines, reputational damage, and potential legal action. Another incorrect approach would be to assume that a cloud provider's general security measures are sufficient for all types of data, without specific validation against U.S. regulatory requirements relevant to the organization's data. This assumption is a critical ethical and legal oversight. This could expose the organization to breaches of confidential information, violating the trust placed in them by customers and employees. Professionals should adopt a risk-based decision-making framework. This involves identifying potential regulatory requirements early in the project lifecycle, engaging legal and compliance teams, thoroughly vetting cloud service providers for their adherence to U.S. regulations, and ensuring that implementation configurations align with these requirements. Continuous monitoring and auditing are also crucial to maintain compliance over time. Question 15. The performance metrics show a significant increase in user adoption of the new cloud-based collaboration platform, but also a rise in reported data access anomalies when integrating with a third-party CRM system. The IT security team has flagged potential data leakage risks associated with this integration. What is the most appropriate next step to ensure compliance with data protection regulations and maintain user trust? Option A. Proceed with implementing additional technical security measures on the collaboration platform, assuming the CRM vendor's security protocols are adequate and the anomalies are isolated incidents. Option B. Rely on the existing general privacy policy, which users have agreed to cover the data sharing with the CRM and monitor for further anomalies. Option C. Request the CRM vendor to provide a certification of their compliance with relevant data protection laws and proceed with the integration based on their assurance. Option D. Immediately initiate a comprehensive data protection impact assessment, DPIA, to evaluate the risks associated with the CRM integration and identify necessary mitigation strategies before further data exchange occurs. The correct answer is D. Immediately initiate a comprehensive data protection impact assessment, DPIA, to evaluate the risks associated with the CRM integration and identify necessary mitigation strategies before further data exchange occurs. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in implementing cloud collaboration solutions, ensuring secure and compliant data handling when integrating with third-party services. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need for seamless user experience and functionality with the stringent requirements of data privacy regulations, which are paramount in maintaining customer trust and avoiding legal repercussions. The specific jurisdiction for this exam is not explicitly stated, but for the purpose of this question, we will assume a framework similar to GDPR or CCPA, emphasizing data subject rights and lawful processing. The correct approach prioritizes a thorough understanding and adherence to data protection regulations by conducting a data protection impact assessment, DPIA, before integration. This proactive measure is best professional practice because it systematically identifies and mitigates potential risks to data privacy. It ensures that the integration is designed with privacy by design and by default principles, aligning with regulatory mandates for lawful and fair data processing. This approach demonstrates due diligence and a commitment to protecting sensitive information, which is a core ethical and legal obligation. An incorrect approach that proceeds with integration without a DPIA, assuming the third-party vendor's compliance is sufficient, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This overlooks the organization's own responsibility for the data it processes, even when using third-party services. It violates the principle of accountability, as the organization remains liable for data breaches or non-compliance. Ethically, it exposes users to undue risk by not adequately assessing potential privacy harms. Another incorrect approach, which involves implementing technical controls without a comprehensive legal and privacy review, is also professionally unacceptable. While technical controls are important, they are insufficient on their own if the underlying data processing activities are not legally compliant. This approach fails to address the broader legal and ethical implications of data handling, potentially leading to violations of data subject rights or unlawful processing. Finally, an approach that relies solely on user consent obtained through a generic privacy policy, without a specific assessment of the integration's impact, is flawed. While consent is a lawful basis for processing, it must be informed and specific. A generic policy may not adequately inform users about the nuances of data sharing with the new third-party service, rendering the consent potentially invalid and leading to regulatory noncompliance. The professional decision-making process in such situation should involve a multidisciplinary approach. First, identify the regulatory framework applicable to the data being processed. Second, conduct a thorough risk assessment, including a DPIA, to understand potential privacy impacts. Third, engage legal and compliance teams to ensure all processing activities are lawful and ethical. Fourth, implement appropriate technical and organizational measures to protect data. Finally, ensure transparency with users regarding data processing activities. Question 16. System analysis indicates that a Cisco collaboration solution involving cloud services and edge devices is being deployed under tight deadlines. To expedite the process, the implementation team is considering skipping user acceptance testing, UAT, for certain features and deferring comprehensive security hardening until after the initial go-live. Which approach best optimizes the implementation process while adhering to professional best practices for this scenario? Option A. Prioritize immediate feature availability by skipping UAT for non-critical features and deferring security hardening to a post-launch maintenance window. Option B. Deploy the solution rapidly with minimal testing, focusing on core functionality and addressing any issues that arise post-launch through reactive troubleshooting. Option C. Rely on vendor default configurations for all security and performance settings and proceed with a full deployment without extensive testing. Option D. Implement the solution in phases, conducting thorough testing and security validation at each stage, including UAT, before proceeding to the next phase. The correct answer is D. Implement the solution in phases, conducting thorough testing and security validation at each stage, including UAT, before proceeding to the next phase. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in implementing collaboration solutions, balancing the need for rapid deployment with the imperative of ensuring data integrity and compliance. The pressure to deliver a functional system quickly can lead to shortcuts that, while seemingly efficient in the short term, introduce significant risks. The professional challenge lies in navigating these competing demands, understanding the potential downstream consequences of hasty decisions, and advocating for a process that prioritizes both speed and robust implementation. The complexity arises from the interconnectedness of cloud services, edge solution, and the sensitive nature of collaboration data, making any deviation from best practices potentially impactful. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased implementation with rigorous testing at each stage, including user acceptance testing, UAT, and security validation. This aligns with the principles of responsible technology deployment and risk management. By breaking down the implementation into manageable phases, each with defined success criteria, the team can identify and rectify issues early, minimizing the impact of errors. UAT ensures that the solution meets user needs and functions as expected in real-world scenarios, preventing user frustration and adoption roadblocks. Security validation is paramount, especially with cloud and edge solutions, to protect sensitive communication data from unauthorized access or breaches. Adhering to general principles of data protection and cybersecurity, best practices relevant to the Cisco 300-820 exam scope. This methodical approach optimizes the process by building a stable and secure foundation, ultimately leading to a more efficient and reliable long-term solution, even if it requires slightly more upfront time. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves prioritizing immediate feature availability over thorough testing. This bypasses critical validation steps, increasing the likelihood of introducing bugs, security vulnerabilities, or performance issues that will require extensive remediation later. This can lead to data corruption, service disruptions, and a loss of user trust, all of which are professionally unacceptable and can have significant operational and reputational consequences. Another incorrect approach is to defer security configurations and compliance checks to a later phase. In the context of cloud and edge solutions, security and compliance are not afterthoughts but integral components of the design and implementation. Neglecting these aspects from the outset exposes the organization to significant risks, including potential data breaches, non-compliance with data privacy regulations. Even if not explicitly US-based, general principles of data protection apply, and reputational damage. This approach demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of modern IT security paradigms. A third incorrect approach is to rely solely on vendor default configurations without customization or validation. While vendor defaults offer a starting point, they are rarely optimized for a specific organization's security posture, performance requirements, or compliance needs. Implementing without proper validation can lead to suboptimal performance, security gaps, and potential non-compliance, making the solution less effective and more vulnerable. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach to process optimization. This involves identifying critical success factors, potential failure points, and the impact of each. A structured methodology, such as iterative development with continuous feedback loops, allows for flexibility while maintaining control. Prioritizing thorough testing, security validation, and user involvement at every stage ensures that the implemented solution is not only functional but also secure, reliable, and meets business objectives. When faced with pressure to accelerate deployment, Professionals must clearly articulate the risks associated with shortcuts and advocate for a balanced approach that upholds quality and security standards. Question 17. The efficiency study reveals that adopting a new Cisco cloud-based collaboration platform, integrated with edge solutions for enhanced user experience, could significantly improve team productivity. However, the IT department has raised concerns about the potential exposure of sensitive customer data and the implications for data residency requirements. Which of the following approaches best addresses these concerns while ensuring regulatory compliance? Option A. Prioritize the lowest cost implementation option, assuming that any security or compliance issues can be addressed reactively after the platform is operational. Option B. Conduct a thorough risk assessment that identifies potential data security vulnerabilities and compliance gaps, involving legal and compliance teams to ensure adherence to all applicable data protection regulations before deployment. Option C. Focus solely on the technical performance metrics of the new platform, deferring any discussions about data security and regulatory compliance until after the initial rollout. Option D. Proceed with the implementation immediately to capitalize on the efficiency gains, relying on the inherent security features of the Cisco platform and existing general IT security policies. The correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough risk assessment that identifies potential data security vulnerabilities and compliance gaps, involving legal and compliance teams to ensure adherence to all applicable data protection regulations before deployment. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between implementing new collaboration technologies and ensuring compliance with data privacy and security regulations. The organization is seeking to leverage cloud-based solutions for improved efficiency, but this introduces potential risks related to data sovereignty, unauthorized access, and the secure handling of sensitive information. Careful judgment is required to balance the benefits of innovation with the imperative to protect user data and maintain regulatory adherence. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a comprehensive risk assessment aligned with established cybersecurity frameworks and relevant data protection laws. This proactive methodology ensures that potential vulnerabilities are identified and mitigated before deployment, thereby minimizing the likelihood of breaches or noncompliance. By involving legal and compliance teams, the organization demonstrates a commitment to ethical data handling and regulatory adherence, which is crucial for maintaining trust and avoiding significant legal and financial repercussions. This approach fosters a culture of security and compliance from the outset. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost savings without a thorough risk evaluation is professionally unacceptable. This failure to adequately assess security implications can lead to significant data breaches, violating data protection principles, and potentially incurring substantial fines under relevant privacy laws. Another incorrect approach that bypasses legal and compliance review, assuming existing security measures are sufficient, is also professionally flawed. This overlooks the unique risks associated with cloud collaboration tools and specialized edge solutions, potentially exposing the organization to new attack vectors and regulatory noncompliance. Such an approach demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the organization's legal obligations. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the business objectives and the proposed technological solutions. This should be followed by a systematic risk assessment process that identifies potential threats, vulnerabilities, and their impact. Crucially, this assessment must be informed by the relevant regulatory landscape and involve stakeholders from IT, legal, and compliance departments. The outcome of the risk assessment should guide the selection and implementation of security controls and policies, ensuring that the chosen solutions are both effective and compliant. Continuous monitoring and periodic reassessment are also vital components of this framework. Question 18. Investigation of a U.S.-based enterprise's implementation of Cisco Collaboration Cloud and Edge solutions reveals a critical need to ensure adherence to U.S. federal data privacy and security regulations. The IT team is evaluating how to best configure and deploy these solutions to protect sensitive customer and employee data. Which of the following approaches best aligns with U.S. federal regulatory compliance requirements for implementing such solutions? Option A. Conduct a thorough assessment of the chosen Cisco Collaboration Cloud and Edge Solutions data handling capabilities, mapping them against specific U.S. federal data privacy and security regulations, and implementing necessary configurations and controls to ensure compliance. Option B. Focus solely on the technical integration and performance of the Cisco Collaboration Cloud and Edge Solutions, deferring any detailed regulatory compliance review until after the initial deployment is complete. Option C. Implement the Cisco Collaboration Cloud and Edge Solutions using default configurations provided by Cisco, with the understanding that these defaults are universally compliant with all applicable U.S. federal data privacy laws. Option D. Prioritize the selection of the most feature-rich and cost-effective Cisco Collaboration Cloud and Edge Solutions, assuming the cloud provider's inherent compliance will cover all organizational data handling needs. Correct answer is D. Prioritize the selection of the most feature-rich and cost-effective Cisco Collaboration Cloud and Edge Solutions, assuming the cloud provider's inherent compliance will cover all organizational data handling needs. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between implementing advanced collaboration technologies and adhering to stringent data privacy regulations. The organization is seeking to leverage cloud-based solutions for enhanced communication and collaboration, which often involves the processing and storage of sensitive user data. The challenge lies in ensuring that the chosen Cisco Collaboration Cloud and Edge Solutions are configured and managed in a manner that fully complies with the specified regulatory framework, which in this context is assumed to be U.S. federal regulations pertaining to data privacy and security for enterprise solutions. Failure to do so could result in significant legal penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. The correct approach involves a proactive and comprehensive assessment of the Cisco Collaboration Cloud and Edge Solutions against the requirements of the relevant U.S. federal regulations, such as HIPAA, if applicable to the industry, CCPA, or General NIST guidelines for federal information systems. This includes understanding how data is collected, processed, stored, and transmitted by the chosen solutions, and ensuring that appropriate security controls, consent mechanisms, and data subject rights are implemented. Best professional practice dictates a thorough understanding of the specific data types handled by the collaboration tools and mapping them to regulatory obligations. This ensures that the implementation not only meets functional requirements, but also establishes a robust compliance posture from the outset. An incorrect approach would be to prioritize functionality and cost savings over regulatory compliance. For instance, deploying solutions without a clear understanding of their data handling capabilities and without implementing necessary privacy safeguards would be a significant regulatory failure. This could lead to unauthorized data access, breaches, or noncompliance with data subject rights, violating principles of data minimization and purpose limitation. Another incorrect approach would be to assume that the cloud provider's compliance automatically extends to the customer's specific implementation. While cloud providers offer compliant infrastructure, the responsibility for configuring and using the services in a compliant manner ultimately rests with the customer. Failing to conduct due diligence on the specific configurations and data flows within the Cisco solutions would be a critical oversight. The professional decision-making process should involve a risk-based approach. First, identify all relevant U.S. federal data privacy and security regulations applicable to the organization's industry and the type of data being handled. Second, thoroughly review the technical documentation and capabilities of the Cisco Collaboration Cloud and Edge Solutions to understand their data processing, storage, and security features. Third, conduct a gap analysis between the regulatory requirements and the solution's capabilities, identifying areas where additional configuration, controls, or policy changes are needed. Fourth, engage legal and compliance teams to validate the proposed implementation strategy. Finally, establish ongoing monitoring and auditing processes to ensure continued compliance as the technology and regulatory landscape evolve. Question 19. What factors determine the appropriate level of security and compliance oversight when integrating a third-party cloud-based contact center solution with an existing Cisco collaboration platform, considering the need to protect customer personally identifiable information, PI, and adhere to data privacy regulations? Option A. The cost-effectiveness of the third-party solution and the speed at which it can be deployed to meet immediate business needs. Option B. the perceived ease of integration and the vendor's marketing claims regarding their security features. Option C, the vendor's adherence to industry standard security certifications, the clarity of their data privacy policies, and the establishment of a robust data processing agreement, DPA, outlining data handling responsibilities and incident response. Option D, the number of positive user reviews for the third-party solution, and the vendor's willingness to provide basic technical support. The correct answer is C, the vendor's adherence to industry standard security certifications, the clarity of their data privacy policies, and the establishment of a robust data processing agreement, DPA, outlining data handling responsibilities and incident response. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in implementing cloud collaboration solutions, ensuring secure and compliant data handling when integrating with third-party services. The core difficulty lies in balancing the benefits of expanded functionality and user experience with the imperative to protect sensitive customer data and adhere to regulatory mandates. The organization must make informed decisions about data flow, access controls, and the security posture of integrated applications, all while maintaining operational efficiency. The potential for data breaches, non-compliance penalties, and reputational damage necessitates a rigorous and well-defined approach. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive risk assessment and due diligence process for any third-party cloud collaboration service. This includes thoroughly vetting the vendor's security certifications, e.g., ISO 27001, SOC 2, understanding their data privacy policies, and ensuring their compliance with relevant data protection regulations. Establishing clear data processing agreements, DPA, that define responsibilities, data handling procedures, and incident response protocols is paramount. Implementing robust access controls and encryption for data in transit and at rest further mitigates risks. This approach aligns with the principle of privacy by design and security by design, which are fundamental to responsible data management and regulatory compliance in cloud environments. It prioritizes safeguarding sensitive information and maintaining trust with customers. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing a third-party integration without a thorough security and compliance review is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This approach ignores the potential for data leakage or unauthorized access, directly contravening data protection laws that mandate reasonable security measures. Relying solely on the vendor's stated security practices without independent verification is also problematic, as it abdicates responsibility for data protection. Furthermore, prioritizing immediate functionality or cost savings over security and compliance can lead to severe penalties, legal liabilities, and a loss of customer confidence. Failing to establish clear contractual obligations regarding data handling and incident response leaves the organization vulnerable in the event of a breach. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a phased approach to evaluating and integrating third-party cloud collaboration solutions. This begins with clearly defining the organization's data security and compliance requirements. Next, conduct thorough due diligence on potential vendors, focusing on their security posture, compliance certifications, and data handling practices. Develop comprehensive service level agreements, SLAs, and DPAs that explicitly outline security responsibilities and data protection measures. Implement technical controls such as encryption, access management, and monitoring. Finally, establish a continuous monitoring and review process to ensure ongoing compliance and security effectiveness. This systematic approach ensures that business objectives are met without compromising regulatory obligations or customer trust. Question 20. When evaluating a Cisco collaboration solution implementation project, a consultant discovers a critical security vulnerability in a component that was not explicitly included in the original statement of work. The vulnerability could expose sensitive client data. What is the most ethically and professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Discreetly attempt to fix the vulnerability without informing the client to avoid delaying the project and potential scope disputes. Option B. Immediately halt the project and demand that the client address the vulnerability before proceeding, regardless of the original project timeline. Option C. Document the vulnerability and its potential impact, then present it to the client with recommendations for remediation, seeking their approval for any additional work. Option D. Ignore the vulnerability as it falls outside the contracted scope and focus solely on completing the agreed-upon deliverables. Correct answer is C. Document the vulnerability and its potential impact, then present it to the client with recommendations for remediation, seeking their approval for any additional work. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common ethical dilemma in IT consulting, where a consultant discovers a potential security vulnerability in a client's collaboration system that was not explicitly part of the contracted scope. The challenge lies in balancing the client's immediate project goals with the broader responsibility to ensure system security and data integrity. The consultant must navigate potential conflicts of interest, contractual limitations, and the client's perception of added value versus scope creep. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes transparency and professional responsibility. By documenting the finding and presenting it to the client with a clear explanation of the risks and potential solutions, the consultant upholds their ethical obligation to act in the client's best interest, even if it extends beyond the initial contract. This aligns with general IT professional ethics that emphasize integrity, competence, and the duty to inform stakeholders of critical issues. Cisco's own professional conduct guidelines, while not a specific regulation in the U.S. context, emphasize honesty and diligence. In the U.S., while no single regulation directly governs this exact consulting scenario, principles of professional negligence and contractual good faith would implicitly support informing the client of material risks. Incorrect approach is analysis. Failing to disclose the vulnerability is a significant ethical failure. It breaches the duty of care and could lead to severe security incidents, data breaches, and financial losses for the client. This inaction could be construed as negligence, potentially leading to legal repercussions for the consultant and their firm. It also violates the principle of honesty and transparency expected of IT professionals. Attempting to fix the vulnerability without client authorization constitutes scope creep and a breach of trust. While well-intentioned, it bypasses the client's decision-making authority regarding project priorities and resource allocation. This could lead to disputes over billing, project timelines, and unauthorized work, undermining the professional relationship. It also risks introducing unintended consequences or incompatibilities into the system without proper testing or client approval. Ignoring the finding and proceeding solely with the contracted tasks demonstrates a lack of professional diligence and a disregard for the client's overall security posture. This approach prioritizes contractual adherence over the client's well-being and could result in the client suffering significant harm due to an unaddressed critical vulnerability. It reflects a narrow interpretation of professional responsibility that is detrimental to the client's interests. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a framework that prioritizes client welfare and ethical conduct. This involves 1. Identifying and documenting the issue clearly. 2. Assessing the potential impact and risks. 3. Communicating the finding to the client in a professional and objective manner, outlining options and implications. 4. Seeking client direction and obtaining formal approval for any work outside the original scope. This process ensures informed decision-making, maintains trust, and upholds professional integrity.